Good morning. I'm Lisa Garvin, the new chaplain and minister to the university at SMU, and it is a privilege to join this community and to be a part of today's celebration of the Cooper-McElvaney Peace and Justice Fellows. We give thanks for Rhonda and Kia and look forward to what they will share with us today. We also give thanks for the life and witness of Bob Cooper and William McElvaney, for whom these awards are named. It is an honor to have Reverend Cooper with us today, and our prayers are with him and his family as they grieve the recent death of his son, Burns. And we look forward to hearing from him later in the program. Finally, I wish to express my gratitude to Tyler Kim, the program coordinator in the Office of the Chaplain and Religious Life, for all of his work to mentor these students and to bring us all together for today's celebration. We wish we could be together in person, and I look forward to the opportunity to meet each of you face to face. Nevertheless, thank you all for making the time for another Zoom call in order to be with us today. Please join me now as we prepare our hearts and offer our prayers for peace and justice throughout the world, using an adaptation of a prayer written by my friend and colleague, the Reverend Trey Hall. Let us pray. Loving God, you compassionately hold the entire world in your hands. In your mercy, hear the prayers of your people. For those who pull us close to themselves, who draw us back, scoop us up, grasp us over and over again in their warmth and security, we praise you. For children who surprise us with spacey-toothed grins, who greet us with hugs open wide and rainbow handprint dappled artwork, we are thankful. For those who tenderly garden the earth, who grow our feast and harvest our nourishment, we are thankful. For those who are afraid and abandoned, who are imprisoned and cannot stretch out their arms, we beg your presence. For those who work and live in inhuman situations, who have no work at all, who live day to day with no hope, we beg your presence. In our deep delvings into the realness of ourselves and our fear of knowing our fullness, we ask your guidance. In our sincere and most authentic attempts to follow your will, to leave behind our own agendas, to join others in the option for justice, peace, and the integrity of creation, we ask your incarnational guidance. All these things we pray, O God, with curiosity, courage, and hope. Amen.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Tyler Kim, and I'm the program coordinator for the Office of the Chaplain and Religious Life. As the program coordinator, I had the honor to work on the Cooper-McElvaney Peace and Justice Fellowship program for the past 3 years. Despite not being able to celebrate this moment together in person, I hope everybody will still be able to continue to celebrate this moment together online. This year, there are a few changes implemented in helping the expansion of the fellowship program. The program expansion included a stronger mentorship component where the fellows and I had the opportunity to virtually meet during the summer and discuss selected readings based on Bill McElvaney's book, Becoming a Justice-Seeking Congregation, inviting us to further discussions on what social justice meant to them personally and how it impacted us in our community. In addition, this year, the Office of the Chaplain in Religious Life partnered up with our colleagues in the Office of Engaged Learning to feature both of our fellows in the annual Engaged Learning Symposium alongside the McNair Scholars, McGuire Fellows, and many more alike. So now, it is my honor to introduce you today the 2020 Cooper-McElvaney Fellows, Rhonda Bellamy-Hodge and Nia Kamal. I'll introduce our fellows separately before each of their presentation, and we'll save the Q&A section after both presentation has been presented. So please feel free to send in your question through the Q&A feature. Rhonda is originally from Phoenix City, Alabama. She started her post-secondary education at Clark College, now Clark Atlanta University, Atlanta, Georgia, graduating with a degree in business administration. As a lifelong learner and student of history, Rhonda is currently pursuing a Master of Liberal Studies degree at SMU, with two areas of concentrations: humanities, human rights, and social justice. Her research has taken her on 3 civil rights pilgrimages, 2 across the South and 1 on the West Coast. She's written and spoken passionately on the subject, including several independent study projects. Rhonda's varied life experience and coursework provides her agency to be a resource and bridge builder to aid in the acknowledgement of the intersectionality of race, poverty, healthcare, and human rights and social justice. She's excited about the opportunities to help increase understanding and develop viable solutions to a myriad of problems we face as a society. We will now see Rhonda's presentation.
Hello, I'm Rhonda Bellamy-Hodge, and I'm a graduate student in the Simmons Masters of Liberal Studies program. I have 2 areas of concentration: humanities and human rights and social justice. I am so honored to be one of the recipients of the 2020 Cooper-McElvaney Peace and Justice Fellowships. In addition to those benefactors, I would like to thank my mentors, Tyler Kim, Program Coordinator in the Office of the Chaplain in Religious Life, and Ray Jordan, an adjunct professor in the MLS program. I would also like to thank Project Unity and the 6 churches who were my research sources, along with the Dallas County Health and Human Services Department and UT Southwestern Medical School. My presentation is titled, Navigating COVID-19 in Black Christian Congregations and Communities. COVID-19, a brief introduction. Coronavirus disease 2019, or COVID-19, is defined as illness caused by a novel or new coronavirus, which was first identified amid an outbreak of respiratory illness in Wuhan City, Hubei Province, China. It was initially reported to the World Health Organization on December 31st of 2019. On March 11th of 2020, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. On January 20th, the first case was reported in the United States. By mid-March, the first case had been reported in North Texas. And as of September 29th, the total cases in Dallas County numbered 82,161. Yes, there's a new global health pandemic, but nothing makes it more real than when it comes to your local area. As the weeks and months have passed by, over 7.5 million people in the United States have become infected by the virus, and over 210,000 have died from it. The primarily affected communities are Black, Latinx, and Indigenous people. The problem has become clear that, like most social, financial, and health emergencies, these communities have been disproportionately affected by this current pandemic. Perhaps we knew this would be true, for there's a well-known saying, when white folks get a cold, Black folks get pneumonia. And in this case, the same is true for other communities of color, based on the demographic information of those being diagnosed and succumbing to this disease. COVID-19 has laid bare the underlying systemic racism that affects communities of color. Issues of longstanding inadequate health care, low wages, dangerous workplaces or conditions, blue-collar jobs, and pre-existing medical conditions such as high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. Unfortunately, some people begin to think of COVID-19 as a Black, brown, or even a blue state problem, choosing to ignore it. Feeling that they could somehow separate themselves from a global pandemic because the affected people didn't look like them, did not have the same jobs as them, or live in the same neighborhoods as them. Some claimed in no uncertain terms that the whole thing was a hoax, that it was fake news, and they clamored loudly because they wanted to open their country back up. Masks became controversial. Social distancing became controversial. Simply caring for others became controversial. This slide depicts the number of confirmed cases in Dallas County by zip codes. Systems which were set in place literally centuries ago still affect housing, jobs, healthcare, and access to benefits and protections afforded to some, but not to others, based on their race, based on their income. So much can be determined by the zip codes that people live in. In fact, one's very own health, life, and even death. Then there are the jobs that many in these communities are employed in, such as manufacturing, public transportation, retail, restaurants, food service industry, janitorial services, housekeeping, construction, medical workers, and other essential jobs as deemed by the pandemic, where they may have faced layoffs, or if they were able to keep their jobs, they might not have been able to safely social distance, wash their hands on a regular basis, or to do them from home during the shutdown or afterwards. Starting in late May, Dallas-based Project Unity, which is a faith-based nonprofit that works to build and sustain communities in partnership with Catalyst Health Network and clinical pathology laboratories, made COVID-19 testing available at 5 Dallas area churches serving the Black and Latinx communities on a rotational basis. They brought together churches, community leaders, and medical professionals to start the program called Together We Test, recognizing that oftentimes people who live in certain areas already lack adequate health care and related services, that it was important to bring the testing and resources to these communities. The partner churches were Friendship West Baptist Church, St. Luke Community United Methodist Church, Disciple Central Community Church, Hamilton Park United Methodist Church, and Cochran Chapel United Methodist Church. And though not a part of Project Unity, Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship has had a well-established 44-year-old relationship in the Black community. The program provided free COVID-19 and COVID-19 antibody tests to the first 250 people on a walk-up basis at each scheduled location. Project Unity's founder, Pastor Richie Butler of St. Luke Community United Methodist Church stated, "I just believe that the faith community is a vehicle in which we can galvanize and get more people tested." He hoped that Project Unity would help forge a long-term plan for better health and wellness in communities of color. Pastor Freddie Haynes, who is the senior pastor of Friendship West Baptist Church, said, "This disease is hitting us and killing us disproportionately. It would be irresponsible and reckless for us not to take this into our own hands." However, he indicated that many Black people don't necessarily trust official channels due to past abuses by the medical industry. And I'll add, such as with the Tuskegee syphilis study and Henrietta Lack. According to Haynes, there are those in the communities who have said to me, "I am not going to those institutions out there," meaning North Dallas, "because we don't trust them, but we do trust the church." He agrees, stating, "Let us use our trusted institutions, and the most trusted institution in the Black community is the Black church. And for Reverend Sharon Patterson, who is the senior pastor at Hamilton Park United Methodist Church, she said, "We are growing into and really enjoying our role as a community church. We have been feeding and mentoring and teaching, and now it's time to be part of the healing." This slide depicts the results on a rolling basis, the effect of the Together We Test program. Notice the jump in testing, confirmed cases, and hospitalization coinciding with their effort, going back to when they started in late May and peaking in July and June and July. You can see the results of their efforts to get people tested so that they will know their status and could take appropriate actions for themselves, their family, and for their community. The past 6 months have been quite a case study in illuminating the health disparities in communities of color as a result of COVID-19. Decades, no, centuries-old policies and actions rooted in racism and white supremacy have become central in order to understand the why of such disparities. Once the historical veils are lifted to reveal the truth of our interconnected healthcare, housing, immigration, economic, employment, and educational system, they reveal that they have always been designed to heavily benefit whites and middle and upper income people. However, don't despair, as it has been throughout our history, from slavery to Reconstruction to the Civil Rights Movement to the Black Lives Matter movement. Black churches continue to be central in their community's health and well-being, addressing the whole of the body of Christ. In essence, the Black church has been engaged in human rights, social justice, and peace from its very inception, going beyond the walls of the church to serve the community while serving God. Some positive outcomes, if you will, of being able to pivot in the age of COVID-19. Several of the churches said that their online church attendance has skyrocketed compared to last year, some by as much as 50%, because they've been able to utilize social media platforms or their church's website. Some have even started virtual church memberships. They've been able to reach the unchurched or the sick and the shut-ins, or people who are simply seeking different types of worship environments. Increased in tithes and offering. Several of the churches said they have been just really encouraged by being able to get new people into their church services on a virtual basis, has also increased their tithes and offerings, some by as much as 40% compared to the same period from last year. They've also seen increased community involvement and presence. Even though the church doors are closed, but the needs of the community still exist, and they found ways to address the needs of their communities. They've also had increased local and national visibility, and with all of this, they are enjoying increased social agency. In Dr. Martin Luther King's last book before he was assassinated, he asked the question, where do we go from here, chaos or community? He warned of the persistence of racism and the need for structural changes in society to address the demands of the Negro. And awareness and addressing of those systemic problems are still needed today, especially in the midst of a global pandemic. Considering the 6 churches in my research project, they have a membership base of over 45,000 people, owning multiple real estate holdings beyond their church buildings, operating private schools, and managing hundreds of ministry outreach programs in their communities, nationally, and even abroad. These churches have shown that they have significant economic and social agency. For example, Bill Collins of the Urban Alternative, which is the national ministry of the Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship, highlighted many of their longstanding and successful programs, such as their National Adopt a School Initiative, which trains churches to adopt public schools in their community. Their pastoral training program and outreach ministry, which emphasizes not only what the pastors are doing in the pulpit, but what they're actually doing in their communities. They do job fairs, they have a technology and education institute, and a GED testing and certification facility. And they also do mentoring and tutoring in over 50 schools across 4 districts in the Dallas area. Collins stated that it's important to not just talk about community, but to actually do community. He said these programs were able to pivot, particularly because of their prior investment and embrace of technologies such as social media, streaming services, and their customer management system. That is, they were prepared because they have kept up with the changing world. Ms. Ellen Martin of St. Luke Community United Methodist Church highlighted programs that they have, such as their prayer line, their adopt a school program. They also have a care team, and they even took communion out to people. They did a drop-off communion service. They had drive-in worship services, and their PSAN, or their Political Social Action Ministry. Ms. Martin said, whenever there was an opportunity, we made sure to share information about voter registration and the census. Whatever they were doing as church ministry, she said, they ramped it up to meet the needs of their community in response to COVID-19. Some reasonable next steps that could be used by these organizations is to parlay the social agencies that they already have into wider local, statewide, and national and corporate and legislative actions and actions, along with implementation schedules to address the current pandemic, as well as being better prepared for the next one. Because as experts assert, there surely will be another pandemic. So I offer this in response to King's question. Where do we go from here, chaos or community? In the wake of the initial chaos of the coronavirus pandemic, the Dallas Black church community has strengthened its connections within their own communities and expanded their reach beyond their geographical borders, setting examples for others to follow. Thank you, and stay safe.
Sorry, let me get back to the slide again. So our next presenter, Nia Kamal, is from Little Elm, Texas. She's double majoring in human rights and international studies with minors in economics and public policy and international affairs at SMU. Nia conducts research for Voices of SMU, an innovative project that honors the story of SMU alumni of color through oral history. Excuse me. Nia is also a student worker in the SMU Human Rights Program. Nia interned at the Dallas Champions Academy, serving in the CHAMP program, a mentorship program that mobilizes young adults to serve underserved youth with college and faith-based resources. Nia is committed to using her human rights education to promote educational opportunities and equity in her community. We will now see Nia's presentation.
Hello all, my name is Nia Kamal, and I am so grateful to be here with you all virtually to share about my time with the Cooper-McElvaney Fellowship, done in partnership with SMU Engaged Learning. I'm here from Little Elm, Texas. I'm a junior at SMU majoring in human rights and international studies, with the minors in Arabic, public policy and international affairs, and economics. For the past year and a half, I've been an intern with the Greater Dallas Coalition, or the GDC, which is an organization that connects Dallas nonprofits leading in community development. My primary role has been leading the GDC's youth development program, called CHAMP. This past summer, I was honored to receive the Cooper-McElvaney Fellowship to support my time with CHAMP. Today, I will be discussing the work I've done with CHAMP over this past summer. And my presentation will be a little unique because a lot of my work involved doing projects and general administrative tasks for the program. Part of what I'm going to be doing today is 1, detailing what these projects were and why they mattered, and 2, breaking down what CHAMP is and why our mission and ministry is important. So first, I would like to start with a little background. First of all, what exactly is CHAMP? So CHAMP is a faith-based mentorship program that connects college and young adult mentors with underserved Dallas high school students. The purpose is to develop college and career readiness and spiritual formation within our mentees. Our job, through inspiration, through education and exposure, is to raise up the next generation of leaders who can think critically about their faith and their role in transforming their community for their peers and for their future. The work I do with CHAMP arises from a philosophy that the people closest to the problem are the people best to solve it. We do this by mobilizing college students, specifically college students of color, who come from diverse backgrounds. We mobilize them to mentor youth from similar situations. CHAMP encourages mentees to take agency over their lives by encouraging to pursue higher education or careers after high school that allow them to maximize their full potential. We create equity by equipping students from hard places to compete, to thrive, and to fulfill their callings. But why does this matter? I think we can all agree that helping young people is important, just in general. But at CHAMP, we also see the systemic impact that we're making through mentorship, and specifically through dealing with issues of college and career readiness with students of color. All of our mentees are students of color, and many come from immigrant families and underserved communities of Dallas. As we all should know, poverty in Dallas disproportionately affects communities of color, with more than half of the Black and Latinx population in Dallas experiencing liquid asset poverty, affecting 61.3% of Black households and 65.8% of Latinx households. The median household income is lowest among Black and Brown communities. This is all rooted in historic and systemic oppression such as redlining that continues to affect communities of color. There are many important strategies for addressing these issues, many of which we do employ through the GDC. Part of the solution is equipping the next generation of leaders from within these affected groups so that they can escape the cycle of poverty and pour into their own communities. Receiving a college education, getting a job, these are all important parts of building this generation of leaders. Within CHAMP, we focus specifically on bridging the exposure and preparation gap that students of color in Dallas face when pursuing college and careers. Several studies show that students of color and individuals from impoverished communities can be the least prepared for college. In fact, between 2010 and 2018, African American undergraduate enrollment decreased by 21%. 24% of students who are white, aged 18 to 24, were enrolled in college in 2013, compared to 34% of Black and Hispanic students that same age, according to the U.S. Department of Education. Obviously, this difference isn't because of a lack of ability or passion on the parts of students of color, but because of a lack of access to information and support that would otherwise equip youth of color to compete with students with historical advantages. At CHAMP, we're bridging this gap by providing these resources, this education, and also connecting students with role models in colleges and careers whom they can aspire to be like. So here's how we do it. Okay, so CHAMP started in 2019 when it was launched by myself and a fellow SMU student, Johanna Payne. Starting that school year, we began working with 5 mentees and 10 mentors. During the school year, we hold bi-weekly sessions where mentees and volunteer mentors share in fellowship, worship, and lessons focused on college and career readiness. We partnered with groups like the SMU Caswell Fellows Program and SMU's Black Men Emerging for funding and for volunteers. Fun fact, all of our volunteers are either SMU undergrad or graduate students or SMU alumni. We're very proud of that, actually. Johanna and I led most of the trainings for the mentors and also partnered with a mental health group to teach the mentors concepts related to trauma-informed care. It was important to us and to our mission that volunteers were equipped to support mentees in whatever way possible. By the end of the school year, we had held 11 group sessions, hosted several group speakers, and dealt with topics ranging from college searching, resume workshops, and emotional wellness. This was a very exciting time for our team. Johanna and I started with just an idea, and even though we were partnered with the Greater Dallas Coalition, most of the vision casting and the planning was on us. We had no idea how it would turn out, but we were so grateful to end up with such a great group and so many meaningful relationships and achievements. This summer, my goal as a Cooper-McElvaney Fellow was to continue building CHAMP and preparing us for another successful school year. In a way, last year was a pilot session, and we now needed to go into a phase of serious development. As I mentioned earlier, most of our programming happens during the school year when we hold bi-weekly group mentorship sessions. My responsibilities for last summer were to carry out the organizational and administrative tasks to prepare CHAMP for the 2020-2021 school year. I'm not going to jump into what these tasks were and what my larger goals were. So I had 4 primary goals. The first was to continue deepening relationships with mentees, which of course is at the heart of our program. My second goal was to equip our CHAMP leaders by growing and training our team of mentors. I also wanted to strengthen the learning experience by developing a curriculum for our 4 separate grade groups. My final goal was to ensure sustainability by creating a collection of guidelines and instructions for future directors and interns on how to run and successfully grow CHAMP. So these were my 4 goals, and I'm now going to dive in to discuss the different initiatives and projects we used to achieve them. As someone working in a mentorship program, my first priority, of course, is going to be the mentees. During our summer break and this uncertain time of COVID, it was essential to me that I used the opportunity to encourage community and to encourage growth. So we started a Zoom discipleship small group. The mentees and I met weekly over the course of 2 months to talk about discipleship. Christian discipleship is kind of like Christian mentorship, where people interested in becoming more serious about their faith receive guidance on how to follow the example of Jesus Christ. Our goal was for this to be more than a Sunday school or traditional Bible study format. Rather, the purpose was to have conversation-based sessions where the mentees and I would discuss the basics of spiritual maturity and of servant leadership. We used the Impact Discipleship curriculum, which is specifically designed to help multicultural urban communities build disciple-making disciples. Part of this process also required me to go through a 7-week training myself on how to teach the curriculum. So I spent part of my summer being prepared to facilitate these discipleship small groups. In addition to students being exposed to important scriptures and spiritual principles, it was also a time when the students could open up with each other and with me to discuss their fears, their hopes for the future, mental health, and for me to support them with advice and resources as a mentor. I also intentionally built relationships with regular phone calls, not just to the mentees, but to their parents, as a way to further develop community, trust, and to learn how CHAMP can continue supporting them. Working directly with students was the highlight of my Cooper-McElvaney Fellowship. However, there were other organizational and administrative tasks that made up the bulk of my responsibilities. One of the accomplishments I'm most proud of is the new CHAMP curriculum and digital manual that we designed over the summer. With the CHAMP curriculum, we planned 14 lessons for each grade group, focused on topics relevant to college and career readiness. This adds up to about 56 lessons planned in all, which was a huge task to undertake. We drew our curriculum from brainstorming with other mentorship programs, with our team's own experiences as recent college applicants, and then our advisor, who has a master's in education from the SMU Simmons School of Education, and who works in college access. Creating this curriculum allowed us to, 1, further develop our teaching and mentorship philosophy, and then 2, to pinpoint important topics for our students to learn before graduating. For example, we decided that the majority of our sessions would now be led by mentors. We did this as a way to empower our volunteers. Last year, I led the majority of sessions, but we are working to give our mentors greater agency, leadership development opportunities, and chances to connect with mentees. Therefore, we designed mentor guideline sheets that help our mentors lead small group learning sessions with students. We decided to opt out of creating a very strict, rigid curriculum. Instead, we made the instructions fluid and flexible so that our mentors are really the ones in charge, the ones doing the decision-making during sessions. This allows them to adapt to the unique needs of their mentees. Some examples of topics we cover in the curriculum are preparing for the PSAT, how to choose a college, and interview skills. Creating this curriculum was definitely an extensive task, but one that we are very excited to implement this school year. The curriculum was not the only major task I tackled this summer. I also worked to create a manual outlining CHAMP culture, practices, administrative forms, and other important content that future interns will need to run the program. One major concern that Johanna and I have is that CHAMP will not continue after we graduate in 2022 and leave for grad school. Thankfully, we've been planning since we first started in 2019 how we want to make this program sustainable. Part of the solution is training up the next set of interns who can take our place starting next school year. Another part of the solution is this manual, which will hopefully help future leaders maintain the integrity of the program. To achieve this, Johanna and I recruited a new intern who we are training to take over our work with the GDC. Her name is Jordan, and she is absolutely incredible, so faithful, and such an incredible leader. She is also an SMU student. I helped lead trainings with Jordan, and currently she is shadowing Johanna and myself as we lead sessions this school year. So that's what I did as far as training our new mentor, or our new intern. As I mentioned before, I also worked on developing a manual that can be used to help future interns. In this manual, we have copies of all important forms, marketing materials, and curriculum materials for CHAMP. It also includes detailed descriptions of why and how we run our mentor sessions. For example, at CHAMP, we always engage in a time of fellowship and community building at the start of our sessions. In our manual, we outline the spiritual and practical reasons why we do this. We give tips on how to lead successful community building activities, especially over Zoom, which we had to quickly adapt to last semester. Basically, through this manual, we are sharing the tips, the strategies, the vision that helped Johanna and I to run CHAMP. Currently, the manual is about 28 pages, and we are still working on incorporating some finishing components. But again, it was another extensive task, but one that was really important to achieving our goal of sustainability. So these were the 4 major tasks I led in CHAMP this summer. We had the discipleship small groups, the curriculum development, intern trainings, and the creation of the CHAMP manual. I also completed several other tasks, like producing marketing materials, recruiting volunteers, and training our volunteers. It was a busy summer, to say the least, but one that was incredibly fulfilling. On September 12th, CHAMP sessions reopened for the fall semester. We are currently meeting over Zoom with 7 mentees and 9 mentors. We are piloting our curriculum as well as continuing to train Jordan, our newest intern. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that I had to work with the Cooper-McElvaney Fellowship this past summer as I work to continue building CHAMP. I benefited so much for the support that I received from the program. We had various one-on-one sessions, as well as readings that helped me think critically about how to frame CHAMP as a project that was centered on empowerment and on justice work. I'm so grateful for every opportunity that I've had through this program and for the donors who made it possible. I'm so grateful also just to be here with you guys today. Even though this is recorded, I'm so excited to answer questions and to dive further into this project with you all. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you. Great presentation. I am now going to open up the floor so that if there's any questions, we'll proceed with the Q&A session right now. Please feel free to use the chat function or the Q&A function to turn in any questions that you may have. So we are getting some comments saying good job on the presentation. Let's see. And because it's,
Here.
go ahead, we have a question. And it says, Nia, where do you hope CHAMP will be by the time you graduate? And what are your hopes for the programs 5 years from now?
That's a great question. And I think I will tackle the first one first. So my primary goal for when I graduate is really to have developed a sustainable format for the program. I think I've learned through this experience that it's not always about the numbers or the size as much as it is the actual impact. And so my primary goal will be designing a structure, a high impact structure that can be continued through the years. And then as far as where I'd like to see CHAMP in 5 years, I do kind of have a specific vision, and that is that it would look like us having multiple cohorts of mentees and mentors meeting multiple times throughout the week, but that's really focused on college students being equipped to mentor and challenge our mentees. And right now, of course, we're focusing more on lessons, but I would also like to see the program grow where we're doing college tours in the Dallas area. And then when COVID, of course, has hopefully passed on, I'm doing more in-person things and community building and volunteering together. So that's really more of a network and community. And so that's kind of where I see CHAMP going in 5 years, developing into multiple small cohorts of mentor-mentee relationships, but also having more of a community emphasis.
Great, thank you. We have another question. This is for Rhonda from Deborah. Thank you, Mrs. Hodge. From your perspective, inclusive of your fellowship experience and in this election season, is it chaos or community?
Well, from my perspective, I would like to say what started off as chaos, and in some instances may still be chaos, but I tend to be more the optimistic type person. I think out of the chaos has come a real development of community, not just with the churches, but they could not have done it themselves. Obviously most churches don't have the ability to set up testing. So they also relied on the fact with the community partnership with the with the 5 churches, the extra church being Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship, but with the testing organization and with the other pathology lab. So I just believe that the community is always important in a situation like this. No one can go it alone. We're really all in this together.
Thank you. The next question is from Hope Anderson. For Nia, how do you recruit and select mentees?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. So I think I very briefly mentioned in the presentation that we are partnered with a larger organization called the Greater Dallas Coalition and the Dallas Champions Academy, which is a summer camp. And so because of that direct partnership, we primarily recruit our mentees from this program. However, after we finished our first year, which was the 2019 through 2020 school year, then now we're expanding it to really include anyone who's open, so kind of word of mouth, but our focus, our target audience is really the Greater Dallas Coalition and the Dallas Champions Academy and the youth that they have within their community because of that direct partnership.
Thank you. Next question is from Arlene Manthe. For Nia, would CHAMP ultimately become a student organization at SMU? Just thinking about sustainable funding for the future endeavors of the program.
Yes, no, that's a great question. And it's something that me and my co-director, Johanna Pang, have thought about. And So I can't say that there is a final decision right now. I think that we definitely want to continue building from the SMU base, while at the same time finding ways to include other interested young adults within the community. And then maintaining this as not necessarily a club, as much as it is a almost like a form of a community development program, and that's run through nonprofits. So we're kind of balancing the pros and cons of both of that, but that's a great question. Definitely something that has been on our mind. I'll keep you all updated on how things progress.
Thank you. We still have a few more minutes. If there's any more questions, please feel free to go ahead and write them in either the chat function or the Q&A function.
Tyler?
Yes.
Okay. While we're waiting for any other questions to come in, I would like to emphasize again the issue of community. And one thing that I've learned after the 6 months is that we, and particularly Black and Brown people, have to be very active in the community too, utilizing programs that are available to us. And to that end, UT Southwestern Medical School has now opened up. They're actively looking for people to participate in their prevalence or prevalence study to find out how COVID-19 is spreading throughout the community. So if anyone lives in Dallas or Tarrant County and would like to participate in their study, you could go to their website at utswmed.org and sign up for their prevalence or prevalence study. And I think that helps out the whole community in terms of really understanding this virus, because despite what some people may say, it is not going away. We have not rounded the corner unless we're meeting ourselves back where we started, but it is still very prevalent in this community. And to that end, as of October 27th, Dallas County had reported 94,358 cases that were still active in the county. So it is still a real big problem. And I think we all have a responsibility to participate for the betterment of our community. And by keeping ourselves safe, keeping our families safe, wearing our masks, social distancing, washing our hands, all the things that we were told to do, in March and April is still very applicable right now.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to also mention that the one-on-one discussions that Nia and Rhonda and I had throughout the summer, we also had a recorded session that kind of goes in and where we discuss about social justice related, how the work is directly related to social justice, and there's some prompts on that, and you can see that discussion on our social media page, on the Chaplain's social media page, for those who are interested. So Rhonda, Nia, thank you so much again for your presentation. We have one more question that just came in, and I'll go ahead and ask you. Rhonda, this is for you. Rhonda, do you think Dallas Black church leadership trusts white input from other churches?
Could you tell me a little bit more about trust white input? What exactly do you mean by that?
So this question just came in. I don't know.
Well, I'll just take it. Obviously, there's a lot of healing that has to be done in communities, but not all of the churches that were involved were Black churches. For instance, Cooper Chapel United Methodist Church is not a Black church, so to speak. They have a very diverse church membership, and where they're located, they get a cross section of people. So I think the onus is on all of us to build trusting relationships, so that, again, we're all in this together. There are some, obviously some past hurts that need to be healed, and you can work on that simultaneously as you work to better our communities as a whole.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. And we will now go ahead with our next slide. It's from our Reverend Bob Cooper, and his special words for us today.
Hello, my name is Robert O. Cooper, better known as Bob. I've been asked to give you some information about the Cooper-McElvaney fellowships. For 27 years, I was associate chaplain at SMU. In 1992, Shirley and I decided it was time for me to retire. Unknown to me, Dr. Will Finnan, the chaplain, gathered a committee to decide on a farewell gift for me. There were suggestions of a cruise trip, a trip to Europe, and matched luggage and so on. But then I was told last year, Dr. Robert T. Anderson, the chapel organist and director of SMU's organ department, said, why don't we try to carry on something Bob has worked on for most of his career? So with the help of other faculty, students, interested people in Dallas and other places, the Robert O. Cooper Fellowship was established. This enabled us to bring in and recognize men and women who have worked in various aspects of peace and justice. In 1993, the first fellow was Dr. William Sloan Coffin, chaplain at Yale, and later pastor at Riverside Church in New York. Others to follow later include former U.S. Attorney General Ramsey Clark, Dolores Huerta, who with Cesar Chavez organized the United Farm Workers, Sister Helen Prejean, author of Dead Man Walking, and Daniel Berrigan and others. When Dr. William McElvaney retired as assistant chaplain part-time, he liked the idea which had been suggested of a McElvaney Fellowship. He had been pastor at North Haven United Methodist Church in Dallas and taught at Perkins School of Theology and had been dean of St. Paul's School of Theology in Kansas City. One of his most successful books was How to Become a Peace and Justice Church. His suggestion was that a McElvaney Fellowship be awarded to an SMU student who had worked in the field of peace and justice while at SMU. So, once again, with the help of concerned faculty and students and friends, money was raised to endow a fellowship for peace and justice. And for several years, the Cooper Fellowship and the McElvaney Fellowship awards were honored at SMU at the same time, with an opportunity to speak and report on the work that they had done. A few years later, under the leadership of Dr. Judy Hinneberger, SMU Associate Chaplain, the Fellowship Committee decided to open the awards to students, undergraduates, or graduates with proposed activities or recorded projects in keeping with the work, and recognized by fellows in the past. Though the fellowship have never been restricted to Christians, Bob Cooper and Bill McElvaney would agree that a guide to peace and justice is found in Matthew 25, where Jesus says, feed the hungry, give something to drink to the thirsty, welcome the stranger, clothe the naked, take care of the sick, visit those in prison, but be warned that those who do may get interested in what Senator John Lewis calls good trouble. But those who do well become more aware, for Dr. King told us, without justice, there is no peace. Without peace, there is no justice. So, on behalf of the SMU Office of the Chaplain, Bob and Shirley Cooper, Bill and Fran McElvaney, those who have supported us in the past, and all who seek peace and justice, we say thank you and God bless you, everyone. Amen.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. And I would just like to remark that it has been a joy to continue to work in the legacy of Reverend Cooper here at SMU. So let us pray. God, thank you for being with us today and for the new knowledge and insight that Rhonda and Nia have given us. We seek your spirit of wisdom as we contemplate how you are at work in the world and what our response to that work should look like. We ask for your vision so that we act for peace and justice. Give us clean hands and pure hearts as we move to reflect your kingdom on earth. Amen. So as we go, may we grow in wisdom and courage as we act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly on our campus in our world. Thank you.